Hello, I'm Angie McCarthy. I'm going to make one of my family's favorite recipes. It's called My Mom's Meatloaf. I would normally make this with ground beef, probably an 80% lean, 20% fat ground beef. The recipe calls for 1 egg, a pound of ground beef, 3 slices of soft bread, a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, 1 cup of milk, a 1/4 cup of minced onion, 1 1/4 teaspoons of salt within the meatloaf, and then for the topping, a 1/4 cup of ketchup, a 1/4 cup of brown sugar, and a tablespoon of mustard. That's the original recipe. What I'm going to do to cut the fat more than in half, I'm going to use ground turkey breast. So I will use a pound of ground turkey breast, which 4 ounces of ground turkey breast have 130 calories and 1.5 grams of fat, whereas the 80% lean, 20% fat ground beef is 22 grams of fat and 280 calories per 4 ounces. So we're doing really well by this. Also, something else I'm going to do to cut the cholesterol and more fat is, instead of 1 whole egg, I'm going to use 2 egg whites to replace the whole egg. Then I'm going to use, instead of bread to make the recipe healthier, I'm going to use 3/4 to a 1/4 cup of oatmeal, and instead of a whole tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, I'm going to use 2 teaspoons, and then a 1/4 cup of onion, just like the other recipe. And instead of a cup of milk, I'm going to use a cup of chicken broth. And instead of regular salt, I'm going to use a teaspoon of kosher salt, so that'll cut down on the sodium a little too, using a little bit less salt. And I'm going to add chopped mushrooms to my meatloaf to add some moisture, since I'm going to be lacking some fat. So I'm going to just do this. I have my turkey breast here. I'm going to put my mushrooms in there. And here's my 2 egg whites. And I'm going to go ahead and add my salt and my onion and my chicken broth. And I will also add 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce. I like to use an old potato masher when I make meatloaf, and I don't have to get my hands all dirty. I'm going to mix it all up here. Oh, no wonder it's runny. I need my oatmeal in there. There's my almost a cup of oatmeal. Mixing it all together here. Okay. With a large spoon here. I have a loaf pan waiting for it. And I did olive oil my loaf pan. I have a spray thing for the olive oil so that I don't use too much. But I put olive oil on here because I was afraid of sticking, since there is not a lot of grease involved in this. So there we have my turkey meatloaf. And for the topping, the original recipe called for a 1/4 cup of ketchup, 1/4 cup of brown sugar, and a tablespoon of mustard. I'm going to use tomato paste. It is a little bit less sodium. There's only 20 milligrams and 2 tablespoons. I believe ketchup has 160 milligrams and 1 tablespoon. So we're going to cut back a lot of sodium there as well. Like I said, I believe it was just one of either fat, sugar, or sodium, but I'm cutting fat and sodium in this recipe. And also, instead of using the brown sugar, I already made it ahead of time, but I used sugar in the raw and some stevia, and then I still used the tomato paste and mustard, and I added some chicken broth to juice it up a little bit. So I'm just going to put this on top. Okay, and I'm going to bake both of these. I have my other original here. I'm going to bake them together. And it looks like we bake them at 1.5 hours at 350 covered. So I'm going to put these in and bake them for 1.5 hours at 350, and I will show you when I'm done and we'll compare.